Well, guys, now it's time for today's guest. Neely Fisher is the founder of global food and lifestyle brand, The Flexible Chef. She's here today to talk about her new book, Food You Want for the Life You Crave. Take a look.
In today's world, we live in a state of abundance. An abundance of expectation, responsibilities, pressure. We have such an abundance of choices. Our problem isn't that we have too little, it's that we have too much. I crave a deeper breath. Some me time without the guilt. I crave a simpler way. I long for more love and even more chocolate. The freedom to do things my way. Most importantly, I crave success, both in and out of the kitchen. What if we could channel our inner chef and spend less time fussing and more time enjoying? Because you can put gorgeous food on the table and satisfy everyone you love without spending all day in the kitchen. Ultimately, I crave a flexible life. What do you crave?
Put your hands together for Neely Fisher.
Hi.
I'm so glad you're here because we love to talk about food.
All
so
right.
welcome to Build
It's
Brunch.
about that hour to
It
eat,
really
isn't it?
Yeah.
We have lunch waiting for us downstairs. So tell us, why did you want to write this book now?
You know what I didn't want to write? I didn't just want to write another cookbook. Because, I mean, do we need more recipes in the world? Do we need more rules or lists of, how to make a roasted chicken?
Hell no.
There you go.
Interactive audience. No. Hell no.
So yeah, I wanted to write a book that was gonna add something to the conversation, change people's lives, give them the tools to transform from being a cook that just follows the rules to a chef that knows how to play with them, maybe even break them once you've mastered them. And so it's really robustly full with tools and tips. I think of it like a toolbox that you could use to transform any other recipe and potentially even your life, if I dare say.
I need that help. And there's over 100 recipes, right, in the book. So what was the process of just whittling that down? I would imagine
my
that
God.
would be time consuming.
Yeah, so I hosted around 16 people for 2 years, once a month, and I had these intimate cooking classes in my living room with friends that eventually expanded to a network, and I used it as an opportunity to test recipes. So I started, this was even pre, book deal, whatever, so I really knew the kind of base of what I was going to include. But then once you start going through the process, which is huge and crazy, you start to go oh, I need a couple more veggies, or I should probably add these flavors are similar, how can I diversify and make it, how can I choose a different recipe that's maybe going to demonstrate a different technique or teach people something new? So it was a couple years of a process until we kind of got it tight,
And on top of the recipe, you mentioned the flexible chef concept. What exactly does that mean?
Flexible chef is all about being masterful in the kitchen and in your life, more chef-like, as I like to think of it. And the flexibility is really what I think of my secret ingredient to sanity. So how can I just not be such a perfectionist, right? If you think of a chef being it has to be this way, right? How can I use flexibility to just bob and weave and play a little bit more so that my life is more fun?
Yeah, that's scary to me. I'm always afraid to go off the recipe.
Yeah, well, it's a practice. So you gotta first you gotta do it once, and then you're oh, I see. This is the part that's the most essential. This is the part I can play with, and this is how I can modify, and this is how I can substitute. So it takes some practice.
Yeah. It takes some time.
Yeah. Or you could just buy my book, and I'll show you how to do it in every recipe.
Great. I'm just gonna take this one.
You could have that one.
I'm on
No,
Brittany's.
you better pay her for that right now.
I will pay you. You wrote this, you deserve it.
Venmo her right now.
Take checks?
I also identify with Brittany wherever I cook, I think it leads to a disaster. But your book kind of addresses how to salvage or flip a cooking disaster. Can you kind of mention what are some of those tips?
Yeah, totally. I mean, well, what do you do you guys cook? What's your biggest what was your biggest disaster?
I have problems where I'll make a sauce and it'll be too salty and I can't take away the salt.
hard.
So then I'm adding other things to try and counteract something you have done too much of.
You just threw a real hard one on me, actually, because I think
Yeah.
adding too much salt is the hardest thing. Yeah, it sounds like you're doing it right. Dilute it a little bit, make another batch and add it to it. That takes a lot of work, but
Yeah.
like that could be a good idea.
Throw it
Address
away.
that. We're gonna have to add that.
She's like, throw it away.
Yeah, Brittany will
Seamless.
take any excuse to just get on Seamless.
Right.
So it's like, too salty? Great, I'll throw away everything.
That's a tough one.
Yeah, but like things like, I mean, classic things like in baking, people typically either overbake or underbake a cake. Let's say brownies, for example, right? So like so many different things. So with brownies, I'll chop them up and add them like a Chunky Monkey ice cream on a cutting board, and then I'll freeze the brownies into the thing, and it's like a brownie ice cream. You can make a trifle. You're like,
That sounds
"Woo."
wonderful.
You can make a brownie pie, like chop it up and put it in with like some coconut cream and chocolate ganache.
I'm loving the combining of brownies to anything you're mentioning. This is mind blowing to me. But also in the book, you mentioned how to like cut down some cooking time. That's the thing with me. I get very lazy. I'm with Brittany. I'd rather just order the Seamless. I don't want to cook. I want to watch my TV. You know. So what are some of the tips you can do to cut down the cooking time?
Yeah, great question. And by the way, it's summertime. Like,
Right.
who wants to be? I don't want to be in the kitchen like ever.
It's
in
too
summertime.
hot.
Exactly. So a couple things, and this is, by the way, the key, I think, to flexibility. Like being able to wing it is about first being prepared and organized in advance, right? Like you can't wing it unless like you have a backup plan, right? I have 4 kids, and I need to have things organized in advance, because if they come in at 6:30 in the morning hungry for breakfast and I have nothing, like what am I gonna do, right? So like,
6:30 in the morning.
well, actually lately it's been a little later.
Oh, okay. Thank God. Summer.
But yeah, like school, like
Yeah.
school days at 6:30 in the morning, and so if I don't have anything prepared, they'll grab the cereal, which I prefer they don't do. So like things like making the frittatas the night before, and in the morning you just have to like maybe even sometimes pop it in the microwave, but hopefully in the oven if I have the extra couple minutes. So really preparing in advance, I feel like, is the super key.
Yeah. And going back to the chef concept, you kind of mentioned also the idea of what a chef is inside and outside of the kitchen. I really think that's really interesting. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah. I'll give you a really good example. So I've been a yoga teacher for many years. Do you guys work out? I mean, does anyone not work out these days in New York? But yeah, right? We work out.
Shanna got really quiet.
Oh
I'm just looking,
you
making
look
sure I'm
great.
on topic. Thank you.
no. Note, tomorrow. So you'll be in an exercise class, for example, and the teacher will say like, okay, whatever.
Don't look at her.
I just like gloss over. She's like, oh, you're in an extra class. I've been to one. I know. And the teacher looks at you and she's like, what's wrong with you?
Why are you doing
are
something else?
that?
Right.
Yeah. And you're like, yeah. I know.
Most people are cooks in the gym or in a class, right? They just follow whatever the teacher says. And sometimes you walk out with like back pain, or like it just doesn't work for you, or maybe you like just had a baby, or maybe like you, whatever, like you're going through something in your body, you have an injury, like you can't do that thing, or
I thought
whatever.
you even just had a baby at the workout class, and I was like, now that's an adventure. Push,
That's extra.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I love that.
Sorry, that's why I can't work out. Too much imagination.
Yeah,
I don't
exactly.
get distracted easily.
I love it. Anyway, you get my point, right?
Yeah.
So it's about being self-directed, self-motivated, self-confident in every area, really.
Yeah.
And you're the founder of The Flexible Chef, so could you tell us more about that?
Yeah. It started off, I've been cooking in my mom's kitchen since, I like to say, before I was old enough to reach her countertops. And so food was always a really big component. I used to run really big retreats around Asia and bring people together, and food was always a really big component. It wasn't like the essential component, but there was always like great food. And people were always like, well, can I get that recipe? I'm like, well, what about all these other great talks? And people just wanted to hear about the food. How was it that I was able to make healthy food? It happens to also often be things like gluten-free and grain-free and all the kind of free things that we like to think of that like are good for us. And they're like, how is that possible? So I always knew I was gonna write a cookbook. And I started the vlog. I was writing recipes, articles on life and motherhood and family and workout and yoga and kind of inspiration, like kind of relatable inspiration. And so the blog kind of transformed into sort of a social media presence and a big, platform, and people all over the world. And then the book.
Yeah. Community.
And you have a show too called Neely's Flexible Food. So if we tune into that, what can we expect to see?
Yeah, it's a pretty like straightforward cooking show where I talk about a lot of the things in the book, right? Showing you in a really quick, it's so fun to watch a video because you
Yeah.
just like get it in a little nugget. Not to replace buying my book, by the way. So yeah, so each one I think has 10 episodes. It's on FMTV, it's great.
And since it is summer, what are some of your favorite summer dishes and sort of tips for preparing meals in the summertime?
Yeah, so we quickly talked about cauliflower, which I feel like is just the best thing ever. It's like, how is a food all of a sudden trending? Like cauliflower has been around in the ground growing forever, and now it's on trend. But I just love cauliflower so much. I make it in a bajillion ways. I have a recipe for a cauliflower tabbouleh. I use purple cauliflower, and I chop it up with the usual herbs and tomatoes and cucumbers and onions and some garlic, and I add some pine nuts or sometimes macadamia nuts or something to give it like a rich texture and stuff. That's like one of my favorite summer things. It's great also to take in a little container and a picnic. Right? Oh gosh, I mean, so many other cauliflower recipes. I have a cauliflower shakshuka, which is a
shakshuka.
stewed tomatoes with eggs, and it's dotted with cauliflower. So yeah, lots of fun.
I saw cauliflower ice cream is now being sold. Ali's girlfriend put it on her story, and I was like, whoa, what's that?
Crazy?
Yeah.
That's
I'm not
crazy.
sure. I think that might be the
Yo,
one
it
cauliflower thing that doesn't sound
It
good.
tastes good. I'm
with you.
Really? You tried it?
Yeah, it tastes amazing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I think they made it Stu Leonard's. You know Stu Leonard's? They made it so that it's just a way for kids to sneak in like cauliflower.
yeah.
So it's not like predominantly cauliflower.
Well, and fair enough. It's a pretty like tasteless vegetable if
Right.
you're not doing any, if it's just pureed bland. So fair enough.
yeah.
But you know what? I'm feeling a little inspired. I see a cauliflower fried rice here that it looks like maybe I could handle.
Yeah.
So thank you for providing this book, and thank you for joining us today.